Welcome back to another episode of Work in Progress. Today we are discussing the importance of networking with one of the CCPD's executives in residence, Tom Kupec. Tom has been an executive in residence at the Career Center for around 4 years, where he has counseled multiple students on varying career-related topics. Hi Tom, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Ashley. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Yay, awesome. Well, I'm so excited that you're here. I really appreciate that you're here to kind of talk about networking and talk about everything that's going on. But first, for our students who haven't had a chance to have an appointment with you, can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Sure, thank you. My name is Tom Kupec. I am retired at this point, but I spent my entire career in the medical device industry.
Okay.
I started in sales. I kind of grew up, if you will, in marketing and product management.
Yeah.
And then for the last 13 years of my career, I was a general manager, so I ran the entire business.
Okay.
And I share that with you because I think that's what allows me to help students so much. I've got experience in sales, marketing, but I can put on my finance hat, my engineering hat, my manufacturing hat. And I've been volunteering here at the Career Center for approximately 4 years, helping students get into grad school, personal statements and interviews, as well as helping students find internships and job opportunities, whether it's cover letter, resume, preparing for interviews, etc. So love being a part of the team.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
The main thing that I want to talk about today is networking. A lot of college students hear how networking is so important when they're here at Clemson,
Sure.
but it can be so hard to understand how to even start with networking. So what do you think the purpose of networking is, especially for current college students?
Sure, great question, and I agree with it. It can be a little bit of a foreign, new challenge, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think the purpose of networking ultimately is to find internship or career opportunities that you can apply for.
Yeah.
We've all heard the saying, you got to know someone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, networking is how you get to know people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a process that you can advance your job search efforts, find that internship or that job opportunity that you want to apply for. That's the primary purpose. Oh, by the way, you get to interview people and learn about companies that you are interested in, just to try to make sure, do your homework and try to make sure that that's where you want to work.
Yeah. So how should students go about networking?
Sure, great question. I think of networking as a process. And at a high level, I think about 5 steps. Okay. So the first step is developing a list of people you want to contact. Obvious place to start is family, friends of your family.
Yeah.
Next place I go to is Clemson alumni. And then you can go further with maybe friends that you know, or better yet, just finding random people, strangers if you will, on LinkedIn that work for the companies that you're interested in. The second step is developing a clear and concise introduction. And once you get this introduction completed, it kind of becomes a numbers game because you're going to use that same introduction no matter who you reach out to.
Yeah.
So it needs to be clear, needs to be concise. I highly recommend that students use the words help and guidance.
Ooh, okay.
I'm reaching out to you, asking for your help, and I'm asking for your guidance. It's very genuine. It's authentic. People respond well to that.
Yeah.
If you ask someone for help, my experience is most people want to help. And so I think that's the best way to get a high response rate.
Yeah.
The second thing that you want to do is, in this introduction, is tell them, I want to conduct an informational interview.
Okay.
I would use those exact words, informational interview. Everybody knows what that is. And it's not intimidating. You're not asking them for a recommendation.
Yeah.
They don't know you yet. So you're asking, I just want to gain information and have a conversation. And then the last thing you want to point out in this introduction is you will not take more than 30 minutes of their time. And so they understand what the commitment is. So I know what I'm signing up for. I know how long it's going to take. I've been there. I've done this. I've needed help. Sure, I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of what an introduction might sound like. And this, I'm picturing an email that I would send to somebody, whether a Clemson alumni, maybe somebody on LinkedIn. But hello, my name is Tom Kupec. I'm reaching out to you to simply ask for your help and your guidance. I am a senior automotive engineering student graduating from Clemson, and I'm starting my job search process. And so I'm reaching out to see if we could have an informational interview where I could learn more about what it's like to work at BMW. So if you're willing to give me the time, I'll send out an invite, and thank you in advance for your help.
Awesome. I love
Clear,
that.
concise,
Yeah.
to the point. So that's the second thing. So develop your list, develop your introduction. Then you need to prepare for the actual interview, informational interview itself.
Yes.
We'll talk more about that later because there's multiple steps in that, so we'll come back to that. Then you actually need to conduct the informational interview. You need to have the conversation. In that, speak slowly, speak with intent, and be very respectful of the other person's time. Do not go over the 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay? And then the last step is follow up. Send everybody a thank you email, not a text. Send them a thank you email, and personalize it. Not a generic, hey, thanks for your time, really appreciate it, goodbye.
Yeah.
But appreciated your perspective on the company culture, and then reinforce how you would be a good fit, reinforce how you could create value for that organization, really appreciated your perspective on the culture. I too am extremely collaborative and love to get engaged with problem solving, and it sounds like a wonderful place to work. Thank you very much. To get the value for yourself out of that thank you note.
Yeah.
So develop a list of your contacts, people you want to contact. Develop your clear, concise introduction. Prepare for each individual informational interview. Conduct the interview.
Yep.
And then follow up. And the last note I would share on the follow-up, in this overall process, you want to keep these relationships warm. So establish a process of don't just send a thank you note and be done with it. Follow up with them a month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, whatever the right cadence is, giving them updates on your status.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a big accomplishment at school. Maybe you're now graduating. Whatever that is, follow up with them, give them an update, keep your name in front of them, and keep that relationship warm.
Yeah.
Because at some point, if you're interviewing now with that company, you want to reach out to them and let them know so that maybe it could turn into a referral or a recommendation.
What advice do you have for students who may feel nervous about networking with potential employers?
Sure. Great question. I think the secret to reducing anxiety around networking is preparing. The better prepared we are, the less nervous we'll be.
Yeah.
And when I think about preparing for networking, I think really about preparing 3 things. One, prepare your introduction, as we just talked about.
Yeah.
Get that done. Now you're not saying, oh my gosh, what do I say to these people? It took time, I figured it out, and as I said earlier, we use that introduction no matter who we reach out to.
Yeah.
Okay. The second thing that we prepare are questions. When you go into this informational interview, we don't want to wing it.
No.
Okay? We want to, because it's kind of like an interview. And we want to come across as professional, buttoned up, have our act together. So we want to prepare meaningful questions, thoughtful questions.
Yeah.
We're interviewing them. We're interviewing and learning about this company. So take the time to think about the questions that will get us information that's important to us so that we can make a good decision should that job opportunity present itself. So get the introduction done, prepare questions for each individual informational interview. And then also for each individual informational interview, have a goal or two.
Okay.
Have a purpose. Remember, we're there to identify internship or job opportunities. That's what we're working towards.
Yeah.
The side benefit is we're also going to learn information about these companies.
Yes.
And we are advancing our job search process.
Mhm.
So let me give you an example. I'm an automotive engineering senior,
Mhm.
and I'm interested in working at BMW. I somehow come across an R&D employee
Okay.
at BMW, and I'm conducting an informational interview.
Mhm.
So I'm learning about the company, we're having this conversation, and one of the things I'm going to ask him is, so does BMW currently have, your team have any openings right now?
Yeah.
Well, this individual's not a manager,
Mhm.
and their department doesn't have any openings. So it feels like a dead end.
Mhm.
What you don't want to do is go, okay, well, thank you for your time, goodbye.
Yeah.
I didn't really gain as much as I could.
Mhm.
What I would suggest is let me ask this individual, okay, great, well, do you know if any of the other technical teams have openings?
Yeah.
Maybe manufacturing, maybe quality assurance.
Mhm.
Normally you'll get a response, well, yeah, you know what? Our quality assurance team has 2 openings right now.
Yeah.
And I think they're actively interviewing for that. Great. Can you tell me the hiring manager's name?
Mhm.
Or perhaps the human resources business partner that works with quality assurance so that I could reach out to them?
Yeah.
R&D person replies, yeah, the hiring manager over in quality assurance is Jim Smith.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now at that point, I've expanded my network.
Mhm.
Okay? But here's the trick. I need to make sure that I ask that R&D employee during the informational interview,
Mhm.
what is Jim Smith's email?
Yeah.
Because if I don't get it, companies have specific formats
Mhm.
for their emails. It might be James Smith, James.Smith, Jim Smith. Good luck finding Jim Smith at BMW on LinkedIn if you don't get the email address. So these are some of the goals and notes that you have to write down.
Mhm.
And having those prepared ahead of time
Mhm.
so that nothing slips through the crack while you're conducting the
Yeah.
informational interview ensures that when the informational interview ends, you're happy with how it went,
Mhm.
you're confident with the information that you got, and you advanced your job search.
Yeah.
So preparing your introduction, preparing questions ahead of time for each informational interview, and having, 2, maybe 3 goals beyond just learning about the company
Mhm.
and writing those goals down too. Doing those 3 things all around getting prepared,
Mhm.
I believe will significantly reduce the anxiety associated with networking.
For my last question, what advice do you have for students while they're networking?
Sure. Couple reminders, some tips and tricks, if you will. One of the things I recommend to students is when you start networking,
Mhm.
get organized.
Yep.
Set up a spreadsheet or whatever other tool you want to use, but set up a spreadsheet to track the opportunities.
Yeah.
Organize it by company
Mhm.
because most likely you're going to talk to multiple people within an organization.
Mhm.
And the most important thing is track who you talk to,
Mhm.
name and job title,
Yep.
and their email,
Mhm.
the date that you talked to them,
Mhm.
and what did you talk about. Just a couple notes summarizing that conversation, and most importantly, if there are any action items,
Mhm.
follow-up items, document what those were.
Okay.
So figure out how you want to track that before you get started.
Mhm.
The second thing I would suggest is, before you start, have your resume complete.
Mhm.
Because if not every time, most of the time, if somebody responds and says, sure, I'll conduct an informational interview, they're going to say, go ahead and send me your resume.
Mhm.
Or at the end of the informational interview, they're going to say, hey, why don't you send me your resume?
Mhm.
You don't want to come across as unprepared
Yes.
and go, well, I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
You want to be buttoned up.
Mhm.
Sure, I can send that to you, and you send it to them right away.
Mhm.
So have that organized. As we talked about earlier, if you get a new contact person's name
Mhm.
from one of these informational interviews, don't forget to contact their email format.
Yes.
Don't forget to get the information on how to contact them.
Mhm.
when you're having the informational interviews, speak with intent,
Mhm.
speak slowly, be confident.
Yeah.
And I think taking a step back, networking is a skill.
Yeah.
Okay? And so as we've talked about it, if you think about it, it's a process.
Mhm.
And so a skill or a process is something that you can learn, is something that you will get better at.
Yeah.
And so if it feels a little awkward, if it feels a little rocky at the beginning,
Yeah.
that's normal.
Yeah.
We all experience that.
Mhm.
And so think about after each informational interview, how could you make it better? How could you make it more effective? What would you do differently? You'll get into a rhythm pretty quickly,
Mhm.
and then it'll really smooth out for you.
Yeah.
And then lastly, don't forget the purpose of what you're doing. Yes, you're having informational interviews to learn about the companies, but networking is all about getting to know people
Mhm.
so that you can identify internships or job opportunities that you can apply for.
Mhm.
And that applies to students while you're at Clemson. But then let's think 5 to 10 years down the road. You want to keep this network warm. You want to stay in contact every 6 months, every 12 months
Mhm.
with your network so that if 10 years down the road you're looking to make a career change,
Mhm.
you're not starting all over again.
Yep.
You have a network in place that can help you find a job opportunity
Yeah.
that you could apply for.
Yeah.
And so those are some of just the tips, tricks, reminders, if you will, that I think will really help a student be successful when it comes to networking.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You gave our students a lot of really great advice, and I'm looking forward to our students kind of applying it to their futures to see how everything goes.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course.